So what we have been doing is that we started the topic Caribbean economy and slavery. And yesterday we look at the definition of slavery, different type of systems in slavery, and what led to uh, the introduction of sugar and the expansion of Africans in the Caribbean. Now, I want us to look at these reasons. Why was African selected? There's a reason why they select Africans. Out of everybody in the world, why go to Africa to get slave? Not even to get slave. Why go to Africa to get forced labor? Because Africans are not slaves. They were enslaved. All right, let I put this here. And you need to know this, that Africans were not slaves. They were free people, right? But they were enslaved. So when you're writing, you do not write and say slaves. You can say the enslaved Africans or the enslaved people. No, they were not slaves. They were free people living in Africa with several different types of governance system. They are their kings, they are their queens, they are their princes, they are their schools, they are their economy. They had everything. They trade with each other. They were free people. They were not slaves. So you don't go to Africa to get slaves. You go to, they went to Africa and they captured free people and they enslaved them. And so why they went to Africa to enslaved Africans, who they in turn called slaves, right? It's a reason. So there are several different reasons. Anybody want to go ahead for me?
Sir,
Why, why you think that they went to Africa? Go ahead.
because since they're darker, their melanin can withstand the sun better than the white people, and they won't die quicker, like as easily as the Tainos and the rest of the white people, and they're stronger.
That is one reason that they have given. Yes, that is one reason. We don't know if because all right, that is one reason that they state. That is what they have said, that they were able to work in the sun. Anyone else? Very good point. Excellent point. That was Marson.
Sir, yes, sir, but who is they, sir?
The Europeans.
Oh,
Yes, the Europeans said that that's the reason why they went to Africa. Anyone else?
Sir, because the head of the African tribes were willing to trade with them.
Head of the African tribes were willing to trade with them. That is also another view. Very good. Any other reason why you think that they would have selected Africans?
Sir,
Yes, go ahead
uh,
for me.
I read in the Caribbean and economy book. I don't remember the title of it, but one of those books, sir, and it said that because they weren't Christians, they saw it a way to spread Christianity to them, and they said that they needed to be in captivity or something like that, sir.
Okay, so one of the views that they needed to be in captivity. Well, they were in captivity, so they need to spread. Well, they wanted to spread Christianity, but why they wanted to spread Christianity? What was the view about them? You're
Sir,
correct.
They believe that they're like sinners and they're, yes, sir, something like that.
They were sinners. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. I'm happy that you are reading, Lee. And so, which brings us to all the points that you have shared. One of the reason, which was one of the first point that was raised, is the ecological, right, reason why they would have selected Africans. So Europeans said that Africans were accustomed to the tropical climate because of their skin colored. They were better suited to work in the Caribbean, which had similar climate to Africa. So that is one of their view. Another view that was mentioned by, I believe it was Brown, is that they said one way in which they could free blacks from, one way in which they could teach Christianity to Africans is through is through colonizing them or enslaving them. And so they saw Africans as being backward people. They saw Africans as being uncivilized. Even today, people think that even in Jamaica, yes, Africans were backward, uncivilized, they were heathens. And there's one thing that we need to know, ladies, about Africa is that Africa is a very diverse continent. Yes, Africa is very, very diverse. In fact, if we look at Africa, you will see that Africa had several different religions. Christianity was in Africa way before it reached Europe, because Christianity is a religion that would have started in the Middle East. And they would have, Christianity is a religion that would have started in the Middle East. Islam was also another religion that was in Africa way before it would have reached Europe. The same thing with Judaism. And so all of these religions were actually in Africa before Europeans went to Africa. In fact, the area that we're going to study, West Africa, and we're going to look more at West Africa in a few by next week, you should have a better understanding of West Africa. And in West Africa, what was unique about West Africa is that they also, in addition to all the other types of religious groups that were there, and more so, they had more Muslims and traditional African religions in West Africa than other parts of Africa. Because remember, you have North Africa. Egypt is part of Africa. Because if you look at Egypt, you would have studied Egypt as a civilization. Would you consider Egypt to be uncivilized?
No, sir.
No, you wouldn't consider Egypt to be uncivilized, but Egypt is part of Africa. Ethiopia is part of Africa. For those of you who read the Bible, you hear about the Ethiopian eunuch, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if an Ethiopian eunuch was recorded in the Bible with helping one of the prophets, I believe it was Paul or somebody like that, or apostle, then how is it that Christianity was not in Africa? These are questions that we should ask ourselves. And so Europeans had the view that Africans were backward, uncivilized, and they were heathens. Not true. Now, another reason they selected Africa was that Africa had a lot of people. Africa had a lot of people. And because Africa had a lot of people, somebody by the name of Manning, what is your name? You're not on the register. Manning? Repeat. Could you type it in the chat? Type it in the chat for me. I'm not hearing you clearly. Also, so Africa had a lot of people, and they decided that, listen, one of
Excuse me,
Manning,
sir, I have a question.
1 second for me, please. Manning, you're in this class or you're in for grade 9? Could you type in the chat for me? Oh, is the first time you're coming to this class? But I don't have you on my register. Anyway. All right. So go ahead for me question, please.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, were they naive?
Who?
The Africans.
That is a good question. That is a good question. This is one view out there. Before we go to be naive, remember that we would have looked at different groups having different groups in the, sorry, different countries in the world are on different continents. So you had slavery in Asia, you had slavery in Europe, you had slavery in Africa. Even some of the indigenous people like the Mayans also had slaves. They used to kidnap, the Kalinagos used to kidnap the Tainos. And so we know the world was like that. I would not say that they were naive because, for example, if you when we look at Africa next, look into Africa tomorrow when you have the assignment to do, you're going to realize that Africa is very diverse and it has different regions, right? So I am from the Gold, well, I could be from the forest area, you're from the savannah. We have two different culture, two different everything. The only thing that might bind us together is to say that we are dark skinned. We might practice two different types of religion. And so we are from two different regions. We have different governance, different kings, different queens. It most times, or 90% of the times, it was not the Africans who, it was not the, if I'm from the forest area and I have enslaved and I have slaves there, I'm not going to capture people from my area and sell them into European slavery or chattel slavery. I'm going to go to a different group, a different region, or a different tribe and sell them into slavery. So it is like, for example, you have Barbados and you have Jamaica and you have Barbados. Two countries that is majority black, right? Black people live there, and say, for instance, these places are part of Africa. But you would not sell somebody from Barbados into slavery, or you would not sell somebody from Jamaica. If you're from Jamaica into slavery, Barbados would invade Jamaica and sell Jamaicans into slavery. Something to that effect.
Fair.
Go ahead. That answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead for me. Next question.
Sir, but either way, black people still sell out black people, right?
All right. So the issue about color of skin came as a result of the Europeans. Nobody saw themselves as being black. People saw themselves as being in tribe in Africa. But if you want to say black people sell out black people, then you could say yes. But if
Sir, were innocent people sold as well?
innocent, very innocent people, children, families were separated. In fact, we're going to watch a movie when we return after the exam to show you how families were split apart as a result of this type of system.
Sir, I also saw kings and queens of tribes.
Yes, kings and queens were also sold. It is a very bad, and it is a very embarrassing part of our history.
Sir, how are the kings and queens sold? Who
Repeat?
sold them? I don't understand. I thought it was when you say black people sell out black people, I would think that the kings and queens were the one who sell out their own people.
Some kings and queens were part of it. Some kings and queens, but as I say, there were times when other kings invaded other kingdoms and took the king and queen from that kingdom and sold them into slavery.
So what I'm trying to say is that black people took part into their slavery, right?
Yes. You're correct. And so Africa, very good discussion, lady. So Africa had a lot of people, and it was a cheap source of labor. So in other words, we could say that for economic reasons, they went to Africa. But for economic reasons, China had a lot of people also. India had a lot of people also. And they never sell out their people. And Africans were also viewed by Europeans as being physically strong. And let us remember that the priest Las Casas would have suggested that Africans should be used for slave labor instead of which group?
The Indians.
The Amerindians.
The Amerindians are the indigenous people. Very good. And so, and another view was that slavery existed in Africa a very long time. So it was okay for them to transport slavery into the Caribbean. And we had the example of Portugal, the Dutch, and Brazil that would have started to export Africans from Africa to Brazil to work on sugar plantation. Now we know for sure, one thing we know for sure was that they selected Africans. Africans came. Now as a result of Africans arriving, there are some few questions that we're going to ask ourselves. What was the sugar revolution? From our class yesterday, what was the sugar revolution?
Sir, it was the changeover from exporting and growing tobacco to sugar in the Caribbean.
Very good, correct. In which territory did the sugar revolution begin?
Sir, Barbados.
Barbados, very good. What advantage did Virginia add over the Caribbean?
Sir, Virginia's they had more land to plant tobacco, and their tobacco was better than the Caribbean's own, and they also sell it for cheaper price. Many people bought from there.
Exactly. So the Caribbean was put out of business by Virginia. So as a result of that, the Caribbean has had to turn to another crop, right? And so they would have turned to, what they would have turned to?
Sugar.
Very good. Sugar. They would have turned to sugar. So if we look right here, there are two things that is coming into the Caribbean at the same time. A lot of Africans coming into the Caribbean to work. Yes. And also sugar canes are growing in the Caribbean. That is one of the reasons anybody drive past Mandela to come to school? Not when you used to come to school. Anybody know Mandela Highway? When you're going to country or anywhere like that? Portmore, Ochi on a weekend.
Yes, sir.
You see a lot of sugarcane lands over there?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. That is from this time until now. They have been growing sugarcane there. The first set of people, all where you see the road was once part of lands that were used for sugar. That enslaved people used to grow sugar. Anybody know where UWI campus is? UWI, the University of the West Indies, or
Yes, sir.
you see all of that area? Anybody live in the Mona area know where Mona is? Mona, Long Mountain.
Yes, sir.
All of that area was one sugar land where they grew sugar. A lot of sugar. All where you see road and houses now were even oak gardens where you have the zoo. They used to grow sugar there. They grew sugar right there. So the Caribbean had a lot of sugar and a lot of Africans coming in. And so with the coming of the African, or the change over from tobacco to sugar, it led to what we call the sugar revolution. Why? Because revolution means a drastic change. Bianca, James,
Yes, sir.
what you define the word revolution for me, please? Revolution is a what?
It's a social order in favor of like a new system.
New system. All right. Walker. Walker, what is revolution?
Sir, it's like things.
Repeat.
It's like it's like getting a new system in
Like
order.
yes, getting a new system. And so, ladies, in your notebooks, please write revolution means a drastic change in society. Revolution is a drastic change. Revolution is a drastic change in society, meaning that once Africans came into the Caribbean and the introduction of sugar, because Africans were always here, but as a result of sugar being used as a main crop, more Africans are coming. The entire society is going to change. And so some of the effects is that very important is that we have three main headings of effects. We have social effects, economic effects, and political effects. Now, for social effects, one of the first social effects that is going to take place in the Caribbean is demographic effect. What do we mean by the word demography or demographic?
Sir, population, people.
Demography has to do with population. Very good. So the population of the Caribbean is going to change significantly. So the population size is going to increase as a result of the sugar revolution or the introduction of Africans. There's going to be, so the first one I want to look at is population increase. The next one is that before the revolution happened, you had mostly white people living. You had more white people living in the Caribbean than Africans. And so you're going to, after the revolution took place, blacks are going to outnumber the whites by 25-1. So for every 25 blacks, you have 1 white. And then you're going to have quite a lot of racial mixture taking place. Let us look at examples of 2 countries, Barbados and Jamaica. And so when you're writing for your exams, your CSEC exams, and if they should ask you in the exam what is the effect of the sugar revolution, you could say, or they said, describe one social effect of the sugar revolution. You could say one of the social effects of the sugar revolution is a change in Caribbean demography. Demography means population. There was an increase in the population size in the Caribbean. Before the revolution, majority was white. However, after the revolution, majority of the population was black. Black outnumbered, or Africans outnumber whites by 25-1. One example of this, Barbados. In Barbados in 1645, before the revolution, yes, before the revolution happened, whites in Barbados was 18,000. So Barbados had 18,000 whites to 5,500 Africans. After the revolution, in 1748, Barbados had 15,000 whites and 68,000 blacks. In Jamaica, in 1658, before the revolution, Jamaica had 4,600 whites. After the revolution, and 1,500 blacks. After the revolution, the white population increased to 10,000 and the black increased significantly more to 112,500 Africans. So what you're telling the examiner here, and trust me, you write something like that, you get full marks because you're talking about the demographic effects. You're showing that the population increase. You come with your figures. You come with statistics. From Barbados, from Jamaica, you use your statistics in the exams. So when somebody take up your paper from Trinidad and they mark your paper, they say, wow, this student from Jamaica has written such a lovely paper. Somebody from even another school in Jamaica see it and said, wow, this student from St. Andrew know their stuff, because they would have shown the year when the numbers were low and year when it would have increased significantly. Even in Jamaica, where it would have increased, the white population would have increased significantly, right, by 10,000. The blacks would have increased way more in Jamaica, way more. And so for sure, one of the effects that is going to happen in the Caribbean is demography. When we are talking also about demography, if blacks are coming in, you have more blacks coming in the Caribbean, you're going to have racial mixture. So blacks are going to have sexual intercourse with whites, and that is going to form a new group. What is that group we call them?
The mulattoes.
The mulattoes. And also the Africans are going to have relationship with some indigenous people. What we call it, that mixing of the Kalinagos and the indigenous peoples.
Mestizos.
Mestizos.
Huh?
Mestizos.
You sure mestizos is the answer? Mestizos is for which group? Anyone? Mestizos is for which group?
The indigenous people and the white people, sir.
Very good. The indigenous and the white is mestizos. So when you have the racial mixture between Africans and the Kalinagos, they call that group the Garifunas or the Black Cards. The Garifunas. And so what we have here, which is also part of demography, is that you're going to have a lot of racial mixing taking place in the Caribbean. Another social effect is that Africans are going to bring their culture in the Caribbean. They are going to bring their language. You give example of African words that we use in the Caribbean. Words like nyam, picnic, uno. Picnic, that means children. So you can say nyam, which in English means eat. Yes, it is not bad talking to say nyam. It's an African word. Gal is an African word. Picnic means children in Africa. And so you have these words that we use today. Uno is also an African word. The Africans are also going to bring with them their food. Yam, breadfruit, ackee are some Africans' food that are coming with the Africans. They are bringing their religion. They are bringing their musical instruments such as the abeng, the drum. Anybody go to church and you hear the beating drum in the church? That's an African instrument. You go to church and you beat a tambourine, that's an African instrument. The African brought those instruments here in the Caribbean. So another social effect of the Africans coming to the Caribbean is that they are going to bring their culture, some of their culture. You can't just take them wholesale and bring them here and they just leave the culture behind. They're going to bring some of their cultures here, which is still prevalent in our societies. Another thing that is going to happen as a result of the Africans coming to the Caribbean is social stratification. What do I mean by social stratification? Is that as a result of Africans coming in, you're going to now be ranked in the society based on the color of your skin. Europeans said, listen, if you're on top of the society, those who are on top have certain privilege, those who are on bottom has little or no privilege. So the whites are going to be on top, the mulattoes are going to be those who are mixed in the middle, and those who are black are going to be at the bottom of the society. And the truth, and in fact, even today, if you look in some societies, this is the same. And so the society is going to be stratified. It is going to be based on the color of your skin. Next, new laws are going to be implemented. One such
Excuse
law
me,
was, go ahead.
what did you say the Kalinagas and the Africans are?
The Garifunas.
Garifuna?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, new laws are going to be implemented. Yes, as a form of social control, social effect. Now, one of the law is going to be the Deficiency Act. Now, this law was established that anywhere you have Africans living, you should have, for every 25 Africans, one white person should live there. The ratio is 1 to 25. Now, white men were considered deficiency men because by this time you had less white men in the society and you had more black. So they were the ones who were deficient. And so the Deficiency Act was passed to ensure that blacks did not outnumber blacks significantly. They know it's going to happen. So for example, let us look at Barbados. Barbados, you had 15,000 whites to 68,000 blacks. Jamaica, 10,000 whites to 112,500 blacks. This blacks outnumbered whites in the society significantly. That's one of the reasons why today in Jamaica, most of us are in the Caribbean, most of us are from African descent, and most of us are black people. And so they are going to pass the Deficiency Act to ensure, and yes, and CXC love to ask about what is the deficiency men and the Deficiency Act. Another law that is going, and so to ensure, I should say, that you have some form of balance between whites and blacks. Another thing is that they are going to pass slave laws. So the French call their slave law Siete Partidas. The Spanish call it Siete Partidas. The French call it the Black Code. The English call it the Slave Code. They had slave laws. What was the slave laws about? It was to regulate the enslaved people. It was to tell the enslaved people how they should behave. If they misbehave, what is going to happen? Classify them in the society. And so this now covers our social effects. Another thing that is going to happen in the Caribbean is economic effects. And what is going to change in our economy? One is that land ownership is going to change. Before the revolution, most whites owned very small plots of land. They were small landowner. But with sugar coming and Africans coming in, you need way more land. And so a typical sugar field was 5 to 30 acres of land. But with sugar in Jamaica, most of the sugar plantations were 300 to 500 acres. That's quite a lot of land. Let us look at Mona Estate. Mona Estate was all of Mona that you have now as Mona, right up to the university campus. That was one estate. 300 to 500 acres. Same thing in Barbados. Barbados had also 1,500 to 300 acres for just one estate. One single estate was between 1,500 to 300 acres of land. Jamaica plantations were very big because you had from 300 to 500 acres. Another thing that is going to happen in the Caribbean economic effects is that the price of land is going to increase significantly. The price of land is going to increase significantly. So before the revolution, 10 acres of land in Barbados was for 25 pounds, which was 3 pounds per acre. But by 1648, the price of land in Barbados increased to 30 pounds per acre. So this 30 pounds in 1630 could have given you 10 acres of land. But by 1648, that could only give you 1 acre. So the price of land increased significantly. Another thing that is going to happen is that you're going to have a lot of European investments. Europeans are going to invest in insurance companies. They are going to have banks. Yes, banks and insurance started with the enslavement of Africans. Europe is going to make a lot of money from sugar and slavery. They're going to get money from taxes and duties on these goods. Also, Europe is going to have a lot of employment as a result of this trade that is going to take place. You're going to have people you have shipbuilders, you need people to build ships to carry the Africans from the Caribbean from Africa to the Caribbean, and you need ships from the Caribbean to bring goods from the Caribbean to Europe. You need insurers, you need brokers, you need persons to work as porters. People are going to become very wealthy. New cities are going to be formed in Europe and the Caribbean because of sugar. So cities like London and Bristol and Birmingham, those cities are going to emerge as a result of sugar. Economic impact of the sugar revolution. Another factor, ladies, is some political effects. Countries are going to become very powerful as a result of sugar. Countries in Europe, Britain, Spain, France, And they are going to fight each other over lands in the Caribbean because they want to grow sugar and they want to become wealthy. And also they are going to pass laws to ensure that they control trade. So the British are going to pass a law that is called the British Navigation Act. The French are going to pass the French Exclusive Act. The Spanish had the mercantile system. And so they have these laws to control trade to ensure that wealth remains in their individual European country and power remained in their individual European countries. Another political effect is that you're going to have white supremacy or white governance. Blacks were not allowed to vote because they were considered slaves. Blacks were not allowed to run for office because they were considered slaves. And so the governance of the colonies, the governor, those who were elected, those who were voting in the colonies were all blacks, sorry, all whites, because blacks were not allowed. Even blacks were not allowed to go to school. It was illegal for them to go to school. In Barbados, they passed a law that you could not teach blacks to read. And so the effects on the Caribbean as a result of sugar and Africans coming in was very, very great. So what I've done today is that I've looked at the sugar revolution, what was the sugar revolution, and the effects. Now, I have posted in the classroom, the Google Classroom, a worksheet. Each individual student has their worksheet, and you're going to work from your worksheet. Now, you're going to answer your questions on the worksheet for tomorrow's class, and you're going to work on your worksheet every single day, and you're going to submit that worksheet next week, Thursday. You need to read, yes, you need to read in order to answer the questions on the worksheet. And and the worksheet is graded. It's 16 questions, a lot of questions, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. And this will be your only piece of work for this month, this worksheet. All right, ladies, any question, any comments? Any question, any comments? All right, ladies, we meet again on Monday, where we continue to look at the topic. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, sir, and same to you.